This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're coming to you from the Bio CEO Investor Conference 2018 in New York City. I have with me Sabrina Martucci Johnson from Daré Bioscience. It's a publicly traded company on NASDAQ, and the symbol is DARE. Sabrina, welcome to SNNLive.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure to have you. Let's get started with an overview of the company, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So Daré Bioscience is focused in women's reproductive health, which is really a broad area. It encompasses everything from when someone's young through postmenopause, anything that has to do with their reproductive systems.
What's the history of the company?
Yeah, so I started the company along with a couple other co-founders a couple years ago, really because I've spent my professional career in the life science biotech industry and never worked in women's health. And it occurred to me a few years ago, why not put my time and energy into innovating in an area that is meaningful to me and where I have an opportunity to experience and use the products that I develop. So we're focused in two areas right now, contraception and sexual health.
Now, where is the science from? Discovered, originated, developed?
Yeah, so Daré, our focus is really to take innovation that others have done and bring it forward and through development. And frankly, that's a gap that's existed. Typical pharmaceutical industry hasn't been as focused on women's reproductive health, and so there's a lot of great innovation happening, but sometimes they just don't have the ability to take it through clinical development to get to an FDA approval. So in terms of where the products come from, we look to partner with others. We're not doing any of the innovation ourselves, we're doing the clinical development. So the first product, which is a monthly non-hormonal contraceptive called Ovaprene, came from a company in South Carolina called Advotech. And the second product, and that's in phase 2 clinical development right now, and the second product is for female sexual arousal disorder. It's topical sildenafil, which some of you may recognize as the active ingredient in Viagra. And that product came from a private company as well called Strategic Science and Technologies.
So what are the targeted indications?
Yeah, so the two are really contraception and female sexual arousal disorder. For our first products, we're always actively looking to expand the portfolio. In terms of contraception, the gap that really exists today is in the non-hormonal space. There's been a lot of great innovation in contraception when it comes to hormones, products that are easier to use, more convenient, longer duration. Women like monthly products. That's how our cycles are. But there hasn't been that same kind of innovation getting to market on the non-hormonal side, so Ovaprene looks to address that gap. It's the first non-hormonal monthly contraceptive in development. It's a vaginal ring that a woman inserts herself and removes herself. So she basically leaves it in place between menstrual cycles. And it works through a partial barrier that blocks sperm and then also releases spermiostatic ingredients that create a postural environment for the sperm. And the second product that I mentioned, which is also in phase 2 development, topical sildenafil for female sexual arousal disorder, really looks to address a gap that exists today in treating that arousal disorder in women who have difficulty and are distressed about their difficulty in becoming aroused. And because of how it works in terms of increasing blood flow to the genital area, it's expected to increase those sensations of arousal and likely the full experience.
What stage are you in clinical trials, and where are they being conducted?
Yeah, so both products are in what we would typically refer to as phase 2. Ovaprene is actually technically regulated as a device in terms of which division will lead the review, so we don't normally call it phase 2 in that space, but it's essentially that, where we're going to be looking at women and showing that the product, demonstrating that the product doesn't allow sperm to advance into the cervical mucus is the first step. So that study is being conducted in the United States. The sites for that study are all U.S. The lead site is a group called CONRAD, and they are a nonprofit organization that's a partnership between Eastern Virginia Medical School and the U.S. government, U.S. Agency for International Development, that's focused on advancing new contraceptive technologies. So they're leading the study, we're gearing up to start that early this year. So that's a lot of activity right now around that program. And the topical sildenafil program, we literally just announced today, actually, that we have licensed that program. So we are just gearing up with activities on that to start the clinical study, sometime late this year.
Please discuss the need for non-hormonal contraceptives, if you would.
It's a great question. So if you think about contraception and the history of contraception, so the first contraception was a hormone, the birth control pill that came out in 1960. And a lot of the work, as I mentioned earlier, in contraception has been around hormonal methods because that was really our first sort of foray into contraception. But a big segment of the market today, 22%, of women are using some kind of non-hormonal contraceptive method that is not implanted or permanent. So permanent would be like a tubal ligation, implanted would be a non-hormonal intrauterine device, but 22% are opting for something that is neither of those and is not hormonal, meaning they're using condoms, they're using diaphragms, they're using spermicides. All of those methods are in the moment, so they are disruptive in terms of the time and the experience. And therefore, compliance tends to be lower with those kind of methods. And in terms of that need, though, the reason that so many women turn to those methods, even though they're inconvenient and frankly, for the most part, they're not as effective as hormonal methods historically, is because either they can't take hormones. So there's a large segment of women who are actually contraindicated either because of underlying health conditions, cardiovascular conditions, they're smokers, weight can be a contraindication. So there's a population of women who just can't take hormones. And then there are other women who technically could take them, but the side effects they experience are not worth the contraceptive benefit they get. So for instance, whether it's mood swings or irritability or pain in their breast or changes in their menstrual cycles, things that they may not desire out of their contraceptive method.
Sabrina, what's your background?
So I'm an engineer by training, a biochemical engineer, and I started out in research at Baxter Healthcare. Actually got to work on the first recombinant blood product, factor VIII, which is really exciting. But very quickly transitioned to sales and marketing, in always biotech and life science, most of my career in San Diego, in that life science community, and then eventually transitioned to chief financial officer and chief operating officer of a publicly traded company. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to work in women's health and actually spent about 3 years working for a global nonprofit, which is really where I got the inspiration for founding Daré. Realized that there was a lot of great innovation happening that just wasn't making it to market. Whether that innovation was coming out of an academic institution or a nonprofit that might not be capitalized to take it forward, or whether that innovation was coming out of a small private company that maybe only has 1 or 2 products. And without an industry commitment from pharma in women's health, they were just not finding the traction to move forward. So that was really the inspiration for founding the company. We started the company in 2015, went public mid last year through a reverse merger actually. And as you mentioned, are NASDAQ listed. The rest of the team are really people like me, people who have a background in life science and biotech, have spent their professional careers in this industry, and like me, just have a real passion for bringing forward products to women.
What's a value catalyst going forward?
Yeah, we have a lot of drivers over the next 2 years. It's a busy time for us. So both of our clinical programs will be, getting into the clinic in their phase 2s and then reporting out. For Ovaprene, we've guided, starting enrollment in that study in early 2018, and then announcing, data second half of 2019 from that next study with Ovaprene. With topical sildenafil, we've talked about, starting that phase 2B program later this year. Late this year, and a next step with that program will be really getting that underway. And, our hope is to have a conversation with the FDA in advance to make sure there's real alignment over endpoints and patient-reported outcomes in arousal.
Let's get your website out there for more information, if you would.
Yeah, so the website is Daré Bioscience, so D-A-R-E and then Bioscience.
What does Daré mean?
I'm Italian by heritage, and Daré, without the accent, we don't use the accent aigu in Italian, but without the accent means to give in Italian. And when we were naming the company, I really love the play on words that Daré means to give. So on the one hand, giving women great choices when it comes to their reproductive health care, but that in English it's dare, so daring to innovate and daring to advance the field in women's reproductive health.
All right, give your website one more time, please.
All right, it's Daré Bioscience, so D-A-R-E bioscience.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sabrina Martucci Johnson from Daré Bioscience. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is D-A-R-E on NASDAQ. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive. We're coming to you live from the CEO Investor Conference 2018 here in New York City. Let me thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.